Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Good morning. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning for the webinar on food waste reduction organized by the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. My name's James Ling. I'll be moderating the webinar today together with my colleague Astrid. Good morning, Astrid.
Good morning, everyone.
And ably supported by our colleague Valentin, who's our technical wizard. Good morning, Valentin. So before we start, a few practical issues. So today's webinar is being recorded. Following the webinar, it will be published on our website along with all of the slides and the key learnings from today's webinar. So during the webinar today, we really want to hear from you. So we're going to be using a lot of the chat function here in the Zoom module. So please get in your questions for our panelists in the chat. You can already give it a test. Let us know where you're joining from this morning and which region you're connecting from. And we'll also be posting some useful links and information in the chat. So do keep an eye on that. So today's webinar is the third and final episode of the series we've been organizing this month on waste reduction. So in the last 2 weeks, we've been looking at textiles waste and plastics waste. And all of the conclusions and recordings and all of that information is already available on our website. So do go and check that out. So on to today's agenda. After my introduction, I'll be giving the floor to Ernest Kovács from ACR Plus, who's going to be telling us about the European Week of Waste Reduction and also their learnings on food waste, which was the topic last week. So morning, Ernest. Thanks for joining. And then we're going to be heading out to the regions, and we have Interreg Europe good practices on food waste reduction from Belgium, Romania, and Finland. So that's something to look forward to. Following that, we'll have a panel discussion to answer all of your questions and to wrap up today's session. So that's a bit how the webinar is looking today. So as you know, today's webinar is organized by Interreg Europe. What is Interreg Europe? Well, Interreg Europe is an EU-funded program with the aim of improving regional development policies. It does that through an exchange of experience and capacity building for policymakers. This is done throughout the EU and also through these additional countries, which are all full members of the program, and also across a very wide range of topics. So today we're within the green section there that you see at the bottom of the screen, but my colleagues are also working on lots of other topics to solve policy challenges. So within Interreg Europe, we have 2 pillars. So maybe you are part of or have been part of an Interreg Europe project. So that's where you have a small number of regions who work intensely together on a specific topic and exchange experience on that topic within a fixed time period. And the second pillar is the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. And the Policy Learning Platform aims to build on the learnings and exploit all of those great results and policy solutions coming from all the projects to share that with the wider community across Europe of policymakers. So how do we do that? We have 3 different areas of activities. So within the knowledge section, we're producing lots of knowledge reports and policy briefs and stories, which are all available on our website on lots of thematic topics. Within the people area, we're organizing events and allowing you to meet peers from around Europe from our community. So that's through webinars and workshops. And in the expertise section, we have some specific expert support services which we offer to regions. Mostly talking there about peer reviews, which is the premium service, and matchmaking sessions. So this is where, if in your region you're really struggling with a specific policy challenge, you can make an application through our website, and we will offer you these services to try and find you solutions for your policy challenge. So the peer review is a really intensive on-site service where we bring peers from around Europe who are experts in the topic that you're struggling with, who will come to your region and give you tailored advice about how to solve the policy challenge. So if you're interested in those, I think the links are in the chat. So do have a look at those services that we're offering. It's very simple application, quite straightforward. So maybe it could be something interesting for you. So on the topic of waste reduction, we've been quite active. Talking of peer reviews, you can see in the bottom right of the screen some recent ones on bio-waste management in Portugal earlier this year, and also on circular bioeconomy in the Netherlands. And also we have interesting resources for you. There's been a policy brief on bio-waste, another policy brief on waste prevention, and also some previous webinar learnings on waste prevention there for you as well. So there's lots of interesting things there on our website. I would encourage you to check those out. So on to today's topic. Obviously, the focus is food waste, a really serious issue, and one that's an ethical, economic, and environmental issue. I've put on the screen the latest figures from Eurostat, which tell us that there's over 58 million tons of food waste produced every year in the EU, which comes down to 130 kilos per person, which seems a huge amount. And this has an associated market value of 130 billion euros. And talking of the ethical or the social aspect, at the same time, we have over 40 million people in the EU who can't afford a quality meal every second day. So really this issue is something that is a real travesty that we should all be dealing with, and hopefully finding some solutions today. So as you can see here, households are generating just more than 50% of the food waste, with the rest further up the value chain. So I think today, within our good practices, we'll be looking at different parts of the value chain there and some solutions. Very recently, the EU has set some new targets on food waste reduction, which it's inviting member states to bring out new actions to try and achieve these targets, which you can see on the screen there. So hopefully in today's session, we can give some inspiration and food for thought about how to proceed to try and achieve some of these targets with some practical good practices and activities which maybe you could implement in your region. So with that, I want to invite you all to join us on Slido. We want to get to hear from you on a couple of topics. So you can join the Slido. The link should be coming to you in the chat. If you prefer on your phone, you can scan the QR code. Otherwise, you can get to Slido and add in the specific code we've got there on the screen. So a few ways for you to get there. I hope you'll manage to join us. We have a couple of quick questions we want to hear from you. I'll give you a little bit of time to get there. And then I think when you're ready, Valentine, we can launch the poll. So the first question, we want to hear from you about what you consider to be the biggest barrier to reducing food waste in your region. So starting today with talking a little bit about the challenges to try and map that a little bit. So we see already consumer behavior, political will came up very early, regulation, legislation. Okay, regulations is coming out as a big topic already. That's interesting. Consumer behavior, yeah. Also linked to lack of education, awareness. Anything jumping out to you, Astrid?
Yeah, you mentioned already. I'm a little bit amazed at its regulations. It'll be interesting to hear what people mean by that. Lack of composting systems. I think we can help with that today with our presentation. No focus on politics, motivation of households, so a lot of consumer behavior, citizen behavior that is coming out on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then consumism, I don't know, is that the right word? But I think we know what it means is we're all consuming too much and then throwing it away. That is...
Yeah, that's definitely coming up as a big topic, the consumer behavior and education, I think, about knowing, making the right choices, let's say, whether that's from purchasing or disposing. Okay, I think like that, we can probably go to the next question. And here we're looking for a little bit of self-reflection, let's say. So we're asking you how successful you've been at reducing food waste in your region on a scale of 1 to 5. And don't all put 3 because that's what everybody always does. They go for the middle ground, but be you can be a bit more brave than that. But it's interesting just to reflect sometimes how successful or not we are and the reasons for that. Okay, so I see that what's coming out is the lower end of the scale is having a few more votes than the higher end of the scale. So that's the less successful end of the spectrum. Well, it's a really difficult challenge. And I think it's reflected by the EU targets, which in essence don't seem that ambitious. They're only looking for, on the one side, a 10% reduction. So it does show how difficult it is. And I remember seeing a presentation from the Commission where they said, we could put a higher target, but we just don't think it's realistic. So, what's the point then in making a target that we don't think can be achieved? So it's not an easy topic, we know that. But okay, that shows we have room for improvement and work to do. And I hope in today's session we give some inspiration for some of you. So thank you very much for that. Well, with that, we're going to get into our agenda, and I'm going to introduce to you our first speaker. So we're really happy to have with us today Ernest Kovács from ACR Plus here in Brussels. And he's going to talk to us about the European Week of Waste Reduction and some of their activities around food waste. So, Ernest, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, James, for the introduction and for the interesting figures at the beginning of this webinar. It's a pleasure to be here because I think I have things to share. I have things that might make the participants interested in joining. This webinar, it was really an interesting question. What are the barriers for food reduction in Europe? And I just came back from a forum in Cairo where a lot of countries were present. We're talking about sustainability. We're talking about marine conservation and a lot of other things. And food came up as a topic, as something that is kind of an urgent thing that we cannot still solve. And it was really interesting to see how different cultures perceive food waste. And it all revolves around the value of food that we value differently. And of course, you were mentioning there retailers and communities and producers, farmers, etc. And the value of food is different for everyone in terms of income, in terms of livelihood, in terms of nutrition. And so once we understand the value, what food means, then I think hopefully food waste will follow and we'll understand that it's an issue, maybe not for us, but maybe for someone literally who lives next to us or in a country not far away from where we are. What I want to show you today, and I'm really happy and honored that you picked this particular campaign of ours, which is actually our flagship campaign here at ACR Plus, where I work. ACR Plus stands for Association of Cities and Regions for Sustainable Resource Management, a 30 years old network of local and regional authorities with more than 100 members and a very involved and committed organization when it comes to Interreg and its different topics and projects. So we are featured in some of them. So the European Week for Waste Reduction is a campaign basically to reduce, reuse, recycle. these words might sound a bit outdated, but this is, as I said, our flagship campaign, which started in 2009 as an initiative here at ACR Plus, supported by our different members at that time. Of course, this campaign evolved throughout the years, sometimes as a project, sometimes funded by different sponsors and donors, sometimes run, well, not voluntarily, but from the offices of ACR Plus in Brussels. Fun fact, 2011, I was still a student in Serbia, and I had no idea what ACR Plus was at the time, and I'm working here now, but I heard about the EWWR, and I organized in 2011 the very first action in Serbia, which later picked up, and I think someone continued this even today. So what is the European Week for Waste Reduction about? It's a 1 week, as the name suggests, to raise awareness on waste prevention. Over the last, all these years, we had, well, very big numbers of actions. Something that is interesting, every year, the thematic focus changes. So this year we have waste electronic and electrical equipment. Last year we had food waste, and therefore I'm here to tell you how did that go. And of course, there are multiple levels involved because it's a Europe-wide campaign. So apart from the Secretariat here at ACR Plus and the steering committee, which, well, kind of runs the show basically behind the curtains, there are also national, regional, and local coordinators and local action developers who are actually working and acting on the spot in the field, in the communities. So it's really a multi-stakeholder involvement. As you can see, there are many different colors used for this particular map. It looks a bit kind of overwhelming, but this is basically just to show where the national coordinators exist. These national coordinators can be ministries, the national coordinators could be research institutes, could be regional authorities. And similar, then we have regional coordinators. These are basically certain countries broken down into regions, especially those countries where that's very kind of very common practice, like in Belgium, like in the UK, Spain. And then, of course, we have countries which are participating. It's open for everyone. As you can see, there were even 2 actions in the Dominican Republic last year. And then, of course, a lot of European countries want to participate, but we don't necessarily have a coordinator there yet. So it's all coordinated by ACR Plus here in Brussels. And this is now a call for all these participants who are attending this meeting to see, especially if your country is this turquoise or white, to get in touch with us, because we would be very happy to have a national or a regional coordinator in those countries. And so some of the numbers from last year, speaking of last year, which was food waste, we had these nearly 30,000 actions in 29 countries, and the whole campaign was supported by 33 coordinators. Now, what's in it for you? Basically, it's now, after all these years, it's a massive database of good practices, of inspiration, of communication material, capacity building activities and tools as well. So something that I would invite you to consult, to see all the previous years and the different topics we had, because I'm sure that whatever your priority in your city or region is, we covered it over the last 20-something years. So how does that work in practice? So there is something for everyone, whether you are a public authority, whether you're a private business owner, operator, entrepreneur, non-profit professional, an NGO, of course. If you're a school, a university, or kindergarten, so anything that revolves around education, there is something. Or if you're like an individual, and we had a lot of success stories carried out by individual citizens, committed citizens to different topics. And I was really happy to meet some of them during the award ceremonies that we have, but I will talk about the award ceremony a bit later. So this is just a description who and like what kind of entities fall under which category. And this is important because the actions are, when you're registering an action, you choose what kind of entity you are, because we want to make this campaign open as much as possible for all the different entities. Then this is something that kind of concerns the coordinators that I was talking about. So the coordinators are these public authorities at the national regional level that have competencies, of course, in the field of waste management, and they meet regularly to kind of shape the campaign for every year, to agree on the topic, to promote the week in their territory, obviously, to translate the material, and of course to nominate the actions for the awards, because that's something that we do close the cycle. And then of course there's a steering committee as well, and this is, for instance, one way to support the campaign and keep it alive. So we have the steering committee, which is composed of public authorities and administrations who invest a certain amount, very symbolic but very helpful for the campaign, and they participate in selecting the annual focus, how the budget would be used, the communication strategy, and they have a prominent spot at the award ceremony as well. So that's something also you can find out about on our website, on the WeCause website, what this steering committee is about and how to support the campaign. Just an example of different actions that could happen. It can really be anything, whatever is suitable, whatever you can do, the capacity you have. It could be site visits, as you can see. It could be a communication campaign, a swap event, screening of movies, really a lot of different things. So yes, I mentioned the website. So this is where you will find a lot of information on the topic, fact sheets, thematic posters, and much more. What I promised you for today was a collection of good practices from last year, which focused on food waste. So here we have, for instance, one from Spain, which was carried out by a public administration, and it was kind of food loss and kind of using what is available. So this was about harvesting bitter oranges from city streets, and then the community was making basically I think jam and some juices out of that. So this was a public administration. Then we had, for instance, a business category, an action carried out by a business owner, and this was turning food waste into dog biscuits, so food for pets. And so this is something that was kind of innovative enough, and I think it also received some special attention at the awards. Another business owner, the category from the business was using brewery grains to make bread, and then making beer out of the leftover bread. And this was really interesting because they came with all these products to the awards, to the award ceremony. So this was interesting to see this in practice and how this tastes. So this was another business owner that participated from Greece. Then we had, so you see, this is the educational establishment category. So schools, universities, and similar, and kindergartens. And so here they wanted to provide professional training course in food industries to kind of help people to understand like what can happen, what can be done with leftover food. So here I think they used apple pulp leftover from traditional cider production in Asturias, and they were using that to develop gluten-free flour. Something very interesting. I'm not a food technologist, but sounds like something that can be done with leftover apples. Here we had, so this was from the NGO category, again from Catalonia in Spain. This was again leftover food that was salvaged from kind of disappearing and going to waste. And this was, I think they were developing a recipe book through this campaign. Something similar to that, this was also recovering leftover food for redistribution, something that was very common, I think, last year, if I remember well. And it even received, I think, an award. They received an award in 2024. And I was mentioning the awards, and I think I'm closing with this because the cycle starts with the steering committee deciding the topic, deciding the timeline. The week itself happens always the third week of November, so it's coming up, and actually the applications are open. I think that's the next slide. And then the ceremony takes place every early June to close the cycle, to reflect, to look back at the winners and the good practices, and before the new cycle starts. So in June this year, we agreed, the steering committee agreed that waste electrical and electronic equipment would be the topic for this year. But this is not something exclusive, because we want all the interested parties to submit something. So it doesn't not necessarily have to be electronic and electrical equipment. It could be food waste as well this year. And the good news is that the registrations are open right now until the 9th of November. So if you're doing something already, or if you want to repeat something that you did before, but you did not register it for the week, you can do it before the 9th of November for the week, which will take place, as you can see, from the 22nd to the 30th of November this year. We don't know yet what the topic would be for next year, but as I said, there are ways to influence that and to create the next week, 2026, together. So this is all from me. This is the website and the contact of my colleague, who is the coordinator of the week, and the website for all those resources that I mentioned.
Well, thank you very much, Ernest, for bringing this exciting opportunity to us about the European Week waste reduction. I think it's very, very interesting what you're doing. And at the beginning in the word cloud, we have seen that a lot of people have been asking about, consumer behavior should change, awareness raising, education, all these kind of activities you have been presenting, and you had almost 13,000 of these activities all around. So is there like some sort of repository in your website where people can see all the different actions so that they can get inspiration, also see what has happened in their own country?
Exactly, that is the point of the website, to keep all the stories, to keep all the actions that took place, in order to, as you said, to inspire others, to replicate them, and to show what could be the impact, because we have different approaches. We saw involving in the community, but then we saw professional trainings for let's say food technologists, or something that requires a bit more of a kind of a scientific approach. So as you can see, and yes, I mean, so the good practices are there, and you can see also like who is your national coordinator. You can get in touch directly with them. If there is no national coordinator, you get in touch with us, and then we figure things out. And yes, what you said about behavior and consumerism, etc., this is something that needs to be kind of understood before going into any kind of a campaign or a policy intervention when it comes to the Interreg framework, to understand I was mentioning the value, but we also need to understand what is the particular behavior that we want to change. So sometimes it's good to target a group, so to define what is our target group, but sometimes the approach can be also targeting the behavior. What is the behavior that drives or that kind of contributes to food waste? And then to target the behavior and change a certain policy for the sake of targeting that particular habit or behavior. And we have several. We just started one this year on behavior, so we will see how far we get with that, and then next time we have a webinar, I can tell you more.
Thank you very much, and we will share it for sure, because behavior is one of the biggest issues, I think, for almost all the policy aspects that we are covering, not only under greener but also in the other areas in which we're working. So for you, what do you think is the key success factor? I'm sorry. For reducing food waste, what you have seen from all these activities that have been going on?
Well, certainly the involvement of the community, because food waste is very often a surplus. So either leftovers from the simplest thing, leftovers from what we cooked, what we produced, leftovers in the farms, in the fields, leftovers from the retailers. So a community involvement, a community engagement. So it's not enough for me to be aware of food waste if the people around me aren't, because then this food waste, the surplus, let's call it surplus before we call it food waste, I don't have anyone to share it with. So everyone will, prefer to kind of get, that's why I think in the Slido I mentioned comfort, because we're way too comfortable in especially certain countries, which is a good thing because we can afford things. But, surpluses should be looked as a valuable, as something valuable and something that should be prevented from turning into waste. So a community involvement instead of, because individual awareness in case of food waste is simply not enough.
Yeah, we have seen, I think it's very interesting what you say, these leftovers. We have seen very recently in July, we have been in Tarragona in Spain with a peer review on food waste reduction in agro-food production.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a lot of different initiatives already going on there, like an NGO that is collecting the waste from, the farmers. Something which you have also presented here was the bitter oranges. So we all got a little marmalade made of these bitter oranges. They had 500 tons, believe it or not, left over because they were not taken up by the retailers. And I think it was one of the best orange marmalade that I've ever eaten in my life. So, and people just get engaged. I think the community engagement is one of these important points. Just do something about it, or learn how to cook better, or buy less things and don't have a fridge full of stuff. So these kind of things. So
And I'm really happy that you mentioned this case, because also the business models are another thing that are much more difficult to deal with. But the way retailers order food from the farmers, and they can change the order anytime they want, which prevents the farmer to sell the surplus because that was not, it was, it kind of was ordered by someone else. And then a lot of food is left in farms. We did this in Belgium as well. Myself, I remember collecting leek some years ago in a farm in Flanders. And this is when I learned about this business model where retailers can order 500 ton at one point, just decide, okay, we only need 400 ton, but the 100 ton cannot be sold because that was ordered by someone. So very, very, very bizarre business models that should be looked into as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We had a question on how to join with different activities that are carried out in Western Macedonia, in Greece, from Cluj. But I think this issue has been resolved in the meantime. So I don't see any other questions, but I think it would be really interesting to maybe even write a little kind of good practice for the Interreg Europe portal, so where people then can see what is the impact of the week, and get their actions registered and so on and so forth, to do some of these interesting activities for food waste reduction, but also maybe for weed. That is another subject which is very important, so coming up. So I hope many people are still using the opportunity to register until the 9th of November, if I remember well now, their activities on your website. And I'm sure you're there for more information if they have difficulties to find it so fast. So you're still here with us for a while. So thank you very much, Ernest, for your very nice and comprehensive presentation. I don't know if you have any questions. James, would you still like to add something, or shall we go into?
I had maybe the quick question, because it came up in the word cloud, the regulation point, that this is a big barrier, and maybe that's also connected to the leaks that you had left on the field, that there's some kind of regulations that once it's been ordered here, it can't. So I wondered, in your experience then, what sort of regulations you'd come across that were sort of blocking food waste redistribution, or other ways.
Oh, yeah, this is an interesting question, and this differs because certain competencies are in hands of different national or regional authorities, and we were coming across. So this is really now, we're going into food safety, we're going into like business models, we're going into insurance, we're going into a lot of things that need to be understood first. So I don't necessarily feel comfortable giving an answer, but food safety is one of them, because if something is from farms or something with with all those discussions and debates on expiry date, best before, best use before. So this is something that really kind of goes to food safety that I don't have experience with, but certain regulations in different countries. And we were coming across such things in certain projects where we wanted to have kind of a same approach in different countries. But then we discovered that something we wanted to do in Ireland, we couldn't do it in Austria, because simply we couldn't. We were not allowed. So this depends really on different policies, what can go where, and what is safe and what is not. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Ernest. Please, people which are participating, don't be shy, fire away your questions. Also for our next speakers, we have them here, they're all experts. So ask the questions. We will try to answer them as much as possible. So with this, we are going into our collection of good practices from Interreg Europe. And our first speaker is indeed coming from Belgium. So it's Kristof Van Stichelen. He's going to talk to us today about the master composters and what you have been doing in Flanders there. Also very impressive program. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and see what experiences you have been making with this program in Flanders.
Okay, thank you. I will try to share my PowerPoint. So, good morning, everyone. So how do we prevent food waste and bio-waste in Flanders? That is what I will tell you about in this brief explanation. We do that by doing non-stop communication, and the role of master composters can anyhow not be underestimated in it. My name is, as Astrid said, Kristof Van Stichelen. I work for the team Biocycle at Home of Vlaco as a staff employee. First, some more about Vlaco and what we are doing. Vlaco, so VLACO, is the Flemish Compost and Digestate Quality Organization. Flemish, meaning from Flanders, and Flanders is the northern region of Belgium, for the people who wouldn't know that. Vlaco is established in 1992. It is a non-profit and independent organization. Who are our members? We have more than 100 members with activities related to organic waste management, like prevention, collection, waste treatment, etc. And the members are representatives of the Flemish government, together with public and private stakeholders like OVAM. OVAM, that is our public waste agency of Flanders, but also treatment plants, intermunicipal waste associations. You have to know that in Flanders, the 290 municipalities of Flanders are gathered in about 25 intermunicipal waste associations to manage their waste. As I said before, we in Flanders, we work with master composters to communicate among other methods, of course, but master composter is an important part of it. Voluntary master composter teams have been active since 1995. It started in 1995 in a handful of municipalities that were trying to find a way to reduce the bio-waste that was produced by the households, and that at that moment was not always collected door to door sufficiently. It started bottom up. So it developed more from within the local community without the involvement of policymakers. There were various parties who created something of their own independently of legislation. But Vlaco was then appointed in 1998 by the Flemish government, by the Flemish Waste Agency that I mentioned, OVAM, to train these volunteers in a more unified way. And in 2005, so 7 years later, almost all the municipalities, all the 290 municipalities had their master composters. So what is it? It is a volunteer trained by Vlaco. It's a volunteer that is assisting the municipality in promoting the so-called biocycle at home. I will tell you what that is in a few minutes. It's a volunteer in a team supported by the environmental, green, or sustainability officer at the municipality. Look especially at the photos full of master composters, all proud of who they are and what they are doing. And you immediately notice that most master composters are not that young anymore and male. It's an observation, a fact that we cannot ignore. What is the strength of a master composter? He has a good credibility and a better credibility compared to official messages. For instance, he doesn't use that typical, let's say, civil servants language. He stands with both feet in practice. He uses his or her own words, works in his own or her own village, and he can demonstrate things. They focus on adults, but also, of course, on children, and specific organizations are part of the communication. A moment's attention also for the photos you see here. You see master composters that are demonstrating not only composting things, but also something about food, doing wicker work, planting perennials. You see what they are doing over there. So those master composters were the most important factor in our prevention communication at the end of the 90s, beginning of the years 2000. But there has been an evolution. In this little flowchart, you see that we started in 98 with the so-called home composting scheme. Master composters then focused on home composting and compost use when they were active on events or when they communicated with the citizens. But quite soon we discovered that there were also many other possibilities with biowaste, and we started focusing on side aspects of that biocycle. For instance, as you see there, lawn maintenance, processing of branches, the use of perennials, chicken keeping, etc. All those aspects were included in our prevention communication as well, and we call that concept closed loop gardening concept. And in 2013, also the reduction of food waste and food loss became part of the prevention communication of Vlaco and of those master composters. And since then, we use the word biocycle at home. All that communication is now, since 2019, placed in a broader context with a focus on climate change, water retention, biodiversity upgrade, etc. The things you can see over there. To be clear, we consider home composting and compost use, but also food loss reduction and waste diminishing methods of lawn and branches, etc., as prevention rather than as waste treatment. In this very indicative flowchart, you see that we reach the citizens mainly by our trained master composters, voluntary master composters. But since 2014, 2015, more people are reached by our direct communication of Vlaco trainers. We have Vlaco freelance trainers that work for us, and they reach more people than the voluntary master composters nowadays. But for clarity, this is an indicative diagram. The figures, numbers are not entirely accurate, but it gives an indication. What is clear is that the master composter approach in Flanders has passed its peak already. That is obvious. Some examples of prevention communication then. To optimize prevention communication, there was need for a support unit. This is the team Biocycle at Home where I work for, and we are a support center, reference center, sensibilization center, policy executor training, etc. And here you see all the items that we take care, that we implement and support. Prevention communication in Flanders is a type of non-stop communication, and that non-stop communication includes a lot of things. I just give a few examples. You see there are publications like a cooking book full of recipes to avoid food loss. We have brochures like these about chickens, but also small leaflets and posters, etc. We have a web page. We have apps, several magazines, etc. So a whole total approach of all types of prevention communication. Of course, left under you see there two master composters that are doing communication things at schools, for instance. So to be short, prevention communication is a type of non-stop communication. That non-stop communication includes events and fairs, and mainly our master composters play a role over there. Information and demonstration stands also for master composters. We give classes, lessons, workshops for young and adults, etc. Our Vlaco trainers are doing that. And then we have the lot of physical and online communication that is done by Vlaco. So what did and does all this prevention communication on biowaste and food waste have any impact, any effect? Well, we check that on a regular basis. So in order to adjust the current policy and, of course, the related communication on biocycling at home, and it is, as I said before, the combination of composting, closed-loop gardening, and avoiding food loss and food waste, and to set up concrete actions to tackle bottlenecks, Vlaco decided to do every 6 years a specific survey on two things. First, finding out how many people in Flanders are trying to biocycle at home. and in what way? And second, comparing, where possible, of course, the results of the survey with the results of earlier studies done in 2018, but also in 2012 and 2006, and check that for shifts and evolutions. So for our last survey we did, or a survey bureau did it for us. We did online interviews with about 2,000 Flemish citizens. And the data collection was done in the second half of March 2025. The questions focused on the following items you see here: destination of food and garden waste, composting at home, how it is done and by who, and the avoidance of food loss. And I will give you now a few results of this survey. The Flemish households...
We have 3 minutes left, Kristof. Thank you.
Yes, okay. The Flemish households throw away mostly garden waste, and they throw away more non-eatable parts of food than they do real food loss. What you see here is the distribution of volume of food and garden waste as assumed by the questionnaire participants themselves, as assumed. That is important to have in mind. Of all the waste they dispose, 53% is garden waste, 34% are non-eatable parts of food, and 13% is real food loss, so eatable and formerly eatable food, as assumed by themselves. Here you see the percentage of the total volume of food and garden waste, again, as assumed by the citizens, and where that goes to. You see 42% is separately collected, 20% is composted at home, 18% can still be found in residual food waste, 10% is used in a more or less sustainable way. So if you see here 20%, 7% and 3%, that makes 30%. That percentage, according to the participants, is managed at home according to the principles we recommend in our closed loop gardening communication and prevention communication. Here you see the penetration and proportion of each volume, selective collection, so the door-to-door collection and recycling parks. 74% of the respondents are doing that, have 47% of their kitchen waste, 56% of their garden waste is managed that way. Home composting, 44% of the respondents are saying that they are doing that, and 41% of their kitchen waste and 38% of their garden waste is managed that way. And there are also other closed loop gardening techniques. You see them over there, chickens and branch wicker work, etc. That were included. Here you see the percentage of respondents that say that to be composting at home. You see in 2018 it was about 41%. In 2025 it increased towards 44%. That does not mean that they compost everything at home, but it does mean that they compost some of it at home. 1 in 10 Flemish citizens is not yet composting at home, but are open to it, as you see here. Those are some other items of garden techniques that they are using. I will leave that dia for what it is. Here are some results in terms of smart behavior regarding food loss and food waste. You see, for instance, that more than 75% of the citizens are going prepared to the supermarket or store. 38% always prepared, 38% often prepared, so that's a good thing. But on the other hand, that's the last button you see, more than 50% is not well aware of the advantages of good refrigerator arrangements, because you see that they store fresh meat and fish incorrect, and that can lead to fast decay of food, etc. So there still is work to be done on this part. Also here in this section of the survey regarding food waste and food loss, we asked for the reasons and obstacles to avoid food waste. Avoiding is often linked to money and to the fact that it feels wrong, to dark green bars at the top. And an obstacle to avoidance is mainly the fact that leftovers do not fit into the new meal that is being prepared. Those are the light green bars you see at the top. So, and a lot of other reasons to avoid or to not avoid, you can see them by yourself. What type of eatable food is thrown away? Especially bread and eatable parts of fruit and vegetables. I think there are some portions and grams that you see on the dia. I think it's more or less the same in the other countries, those proportions.
Please conclude, Kristof.
I will conclude. That were some results of our non-stop prevention communication. Then, as often asked, I will give you some information about resources needed for this Flemish prevention communication. Well, the mentioned approach is a flexible approach and costs Vlaco most of the time an average of about 100,000 euro per year. That is material and trainers' fees included. The intermunicipal waste associations that I mentioned pay, based on number of inhabitants, an amount to Vlaco with which the fees and the materials are paid. So this gives more or less some information about the costs. And that is then my last dia. What is needed to make that prevention communication a success, or at least what was successful in Flanders? A thorough communication approach and lots of buzz creation. That was clear. For instance, social media, other media, etc. An intermunicipal waste association that is close to the citizen, that is involved and approachable, and of course, committed citizens, people that want to become master composter and that want to educate themselves towards other teams, other items to communicate about. That's more or less what I wanted to say about how we use our master composter and what was the role of our communication in food and bio-waste prevention.
Well, thank you very much, Kristof, for this very interesting presentation. Also very impressive, the activities that you're carrying out. I think you said it at the beginning and also at the end. You're doing a lot of communication and you're doing that non-stop because you cannot think that you've done that once and then after the campaign is finished, everybody knows what to do and will do it forever. You have to repeatedly do all these actions.
Constantly, yes.
Yeah, so you have to work on that all the time. You've had the composters and then you added more activities onto this with training and other information that you're providing. So a very complete and very well-developed program that you're implementing year by year for many years already. So we have a lot of questions already in the chat. The first one that we have received is from Inga. She's asking how do you deal with food waste that is coming from animal products, so meat, fat, and milk. How do you deal with that in the composting?
We advise in home composting to not use those animal byproducts, let's call it that way, to use it in the home composting, because it can create a lot of vermin, a lot of unwanted animals, and a lot of smell that is not wanted. But during the core project, we also work for the core project. That's also the reason why I am here. Core stands for composting in rural environments. We saw that in Flanders, that is the case. You don't put that meat, etc., in your home composting, but there are several other regions where meat is put in the home composting situation and where it does not give any problems. So probably it has something to do with the animals and the invertebrates that are the macrofauna that is in the composting, and that makes that in some regions there are problems and some regions not. But in Flanders, we communicate towards the citizens, don't use animal byproducts in your home composting.
Yeah, maybe that's because of the animals. Thank you for that. We have Agnieszka from Malta who's asking us, how have you obtained end of waste criteria for your compost? And if so, share some experiences and good practice on this process. I think this is very difficult in the short time. So if you could maybe just say, do you have some end of waste criteria? And if you have some good practices, share them in the chat a little bit later.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit short time to answer a lot of information on that, but I will put it in the chat if I have the opportunity in a few minutes. Okay.
Very good. We also have a question from Laura who says, could you share the questions in the questionnaire that you're using? I think we will share all your slides. So a lot of the questions are already there, I guess. And she's also asking, how did you ensure that answers are correct? I mean, to answer correctly, you need to measure and make waste inventory.
Yeah, of course, it's an inquiry. It's a survey that we do at citizens, and it's always a subjective answer that they give. If they say that they keep 20% of their organic waste at home and they manage it there at home, then we have to believe them. We don't have exact kilograms of what they are really keeping at home. So it's still a subjective. But we have tried to do some extrapolation so we know how many bio-waste is collected door to door and at recycling parks in Flanders. We know how many kilograms are collected over there. We know out of surveys how many bio-waste is still in the residual waste, because that's also the case. We know the kilos of that, we know the amounts of that, and then we have the percentage that the people assume. And with that, we have tried in the past to get the exact amounts, exact tons, or more or less tons. But it's subjective. It's not
exactly.
Yeah.
So we have. I will ask you one last question, which is coming from Sarah, and the other questions you can try to answer in the chat, or we will indeed share them with you. So maybe we can have a bilateral exchange later in writing to answer some of the remaining questions.
Okay.
Sarah is asking, what will you do with the results of this prevention communication?
Well, as we did in 2006, 2012, and 2018, we try to we check them in detail, and then we try to fix our communication. In former days, in 2006, there was more need towards more master composters, and we see now in 2018, 2012, most of the people are getting their information from online. And we will focus on that type of communication. But this study has been done, a few months ago, so we have to check it more in detail. But out of that information, we will try to arrange new communication methods.
Thank you very much, Kristof. So there's still the questions coming in. So a little bit of work for you is waiting for you. But it's very interesting, your approach, and it's very successful. You're doing it for many years, so you have figures, and you can share, and you can benchmark, and you can steer your communication with the results of your surveys. So it's very interesting, and I wish you good luck in finding a lot of young master composters in the future, as well as a new generation that can take up and continue this excellent work that you're doing in Flanders. So thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank you.
So with this, we're going to hear from Loredana from Cluj-Napoca, who is going to share with us what their experiences are with a food bank that you have been developing there. So we're really looking forward to your presentation, and you have already put it up. Everything is perfect. So please go ahead, Loredana.
Thank you so much. So I'm Loredana Rhazzali from IRCEM, so Institute for Circular Economy and Environment, Ernest Lupan from Cluj-Napoca, Romania. We have more best practices within the project, the CBoost, that is mostly focused on policy instruments, and the main topic is circular economy and digitalization. So today I will talk a bit about Food Bank of Cluj-Napoca, and I will share more details and numbers that maybe get your attention, and also some ideas how we can replicate this. First question that we need to answer or to think about it is, why does the food bank exist in general? There are also many in Romania and in other countries. But the question is, why does the food bank exist, and why do we need more and more in order to prevent the things that are happening? So to provide you some numbers, in Romania, there are millions of people that live in poverty. The number approximately is 4.5 million people that live in poverty, while tons of edible food are thrown away every day. So Cluj-Napoca Food Bank was created in order to bridge the gap between food surplus and the people in need. They don't have enough food. So they're turning waste into hope. In order to provide you some key facts, we are talking about 2.8 million Romanians that are facing food insecurity. 2.5 million tons of food are wasted each year at the national level. So we do look at the numbers and we realize that, okay, there are some solution and the food banks are doing an excellent work. And this is why we need more, and also to have a system that incorporates digitalization and different things in order to, bridge the gap. So the solution is to connect the donors, the one who have the food, and social NGOs that are working with the people in need. So a few things about Cluj-Napoca Food Bank. It's a non-profit organization that reduces food waste in the food sector, reduce poverty and hunger among disadvantaged groups in Cluj, Alba, Sibiu, and Bistrița and Soud counties. So how it works. In this case, they are taking the surplus product donated by economic agents, then collect and sort at the food bank, then distribute for free to NGOs that are working with social programs, and food arrives to the people in need. They started in 2018, and the funding model is a combination of donation, sponsorships, and project-based support. And as a human resources, they have a really small permanent teams, and they are working a lot with dedicated volunteer. So for example, because the Christmas is coming, when they have a lot of food that is coming in that period, they will not trying to have more people to enlarge the team, because there are only some situations when they need more and more people. So they're having volunteers, people who dedicate their time in order to help the others in need. And let's talk about results and achievement. First of all, if we are looking at the distributed commercial value, we can talk about almost 10 million euro for this. We do have 36 donated companies, so there are 36 in the system that are donating permanently. Then we have almost 5,000 tons of food distributed. So we're talking about 9 million and more meals that are donated so far since the bank start. Then we do have 117 NGOs that are getting the food in order to provide to the others in need. So at the total, if you're looking at how many people this bank fed, we're talking about 45,000 people that are being fed by the bank. Also, as you see in the image on the right, you can see that in Romania, there are more banks, food banks. There's a federation of them, but at the moment, I want to present you some facts and numbers from Cluj-Napoca and the bank that we are more working with and involved in some activities. Also, about the impact beyond numbers, we do think it's important not to talk about only the food that is saved and other products that are, going through the one, but how big is the impact before those numbers? We are talking about increasing, public awareness and on the importance of reducing food waste. Just a few moments before, we discussed about, people being responsible, and the study that was made about the behavior of consumers. So also the food banks are having a lot of activities in this way in order to, reach awareness and teach people tips and tricks how to save food, how to buy smarter, how to not waste actually the food. So we're talking about different campaigns. Beside this work that I'm providing you the specific numbers, there's more. And I think it's important to also point out this activities, because it's really, really important. And I think a lot of good facts can be started from this kind of activities and campaign. Then we're talking about a good relation between public and private collaboration and also community engagement. Then it's creating temporary jobs and volunteering opportunities that foster social inclusion. A lot of people, different ages, and everything, from everywhere they are trying to help, and they are realizing the impact. So they have this sense, and they want to be involved in order, to have something, to feel that they contribute to the society. And then, like I told you in the beginning, we are talking about the CIBUS project that is the main topics are circular economy and digitalization. And also in the food bank, we are talking about some tools that are being used in order to quantify everything, in order to have the report, in order to have all the numbers, to know for sure, and to improve also the activity of the food bank every day, and to see what kind of other digital tools maybe that we need, or how we can develop it in order to be more efficient. And if we are looking to answer this and to look at the environmental and social benefits, like I told you, we're talking about a lot of tons of food that are being saved and preventing a lot of tons of carbon dioxide emission that are annually. And it's not a small amount, so the numbers are huge. And then again, the equivalent is more than, it's around 10 million euro worth of food redistributed to communities in need. We are talking about promoting responsible consumption and raise awareness on food waste, preventing among citizens, and those 36 donating campaigns. Then about the NGO that are engaged in order to redistribute and feed those people. Then strengthen the social cohesion and encourage cooperation between business, local authorities, and civil societies. It contributes to circular economy and ensures that surplus food becomes a value social resource instead of a waste. Then it encourages corporate social responsibility by involving private companies as well in this donation campaign. Then foster volunteering, community engagement, social inclusion, and it supports the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We're talking about zero hunger, responsible consumption and production, and climate action. And about the transferability, a lesson learned. This Cluj model is replicable in any region with local food producer, retailers, active NGO that are working with social groups, basic logistic infrastructure, and community engagement. Lesson learned from this good practice, it's important to build strong partnership early. It's mandatory in order to have, a good flow of the resources, then ensure transparency and traceability, and communicate the impact regularly to the donors. Because every time, for example, the Cluj-Napoca Food Bank is providing a video with people, with numbers, with everything, and the donors, for example, there are some events where everybody is invited in order to see the impact of what they are doing. And I think it's important to learn from this and try to, have it in more countries and in more regions. In Romania, there are more food banks, and what I observe and learn is also that some of them are really small and just having for example, one car in order to have all the food surplus that are providing to the NGOs. But this is the beginning, and the good thing is that this federation is helping all the food banks, so they are working better and better. And yeah, this is mostly what I want to share with you, and to just provide some numbers and show you how this model works and why I think it's important for the food waste. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'm really happy to answer them. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Loredana, for presenting this really impressive food bank that you have been building in Cluj-Napoca. I think it's excellent to see that you have been helping to feed 45,000 people alone in that food bank, which is corresponding to almost 10 million euros of commercial value, I guess. So I think it's really great to to see this important work, and we can only congratulate you. I think I see that also on the site already in the chat. So excellent work that you're doing there. You're working with volunteers, but who pays your work? Who pays for the campaigns? I don't know the location where you are. Where's the money coming from? Is that publicly financed, or how does it work? Is that also donations?
It's mostly sponsorships from private companies, and also there are some programs that we are working with. But so we have combined money scheme, to put in that word. So there depends on the time, but mostly is from the Food Federation, or we are working with other companies that are providing, but also private donors. They're really, really important. So the ones that are trusting in what we're doing and in all the action, they are sponsor this every year and make things happen. This is what I've actually said in the end, that it's important to show the results. And for example, if you're looking on YouTube for Cluj-Napoca Food Bank, you're going to see some videos, and you can see they're in English with translation and everything, and you can see the impact. Every time people are watching this, they are really getting emotional, because it's not just numbers and you just provide some money and you have no idea if they have real impact. You see those people and you see that this is really close to you, and those people are living in the city or next to the city where you are, and you can contribute, even if it's with money as a sponsorship in order to contribute to pay for the salaries and everything. Or if you don't have, for example, the money and civil society wants to be involved, they can volunteer. So we have different campaigns that we're trying to involve with people.
Really excellent, because you're also sharing the results. We've seen this also with Vlaco, the presentation before, like looking at what happens and showing the impact that you're making, what actually can be done if you're taking action is excellent. So we're getting some questions in through the chat. So the first is coming from Javier, who's asking, has the change in the European model of food delivery, I'm sorry, I'm getting more questions, towards food voucher cards for vulnerable groups affected your project?
I'm not sure if I get the question.
So there is obviously a change in the European model of food delivery.
Yeah.
Towards food voucher cards.
Yeah, at the moment, for example, I don't think it doesn't impact at the moment our work. So for us, it's important not to have as much food from the donator, but to make sure that we don't have waste. So our strategy is more focused in order to not to have waste, even if, for example, there are other mechanisms that are trying to prevent this from happening. So at the moment, it's not getting in the way of what we're doing. The focus is not to have more people feed through our food bank, but to make sure that this food is not wasted. And we are looking at numbers just to see them decreasing and saving it.
We have a question from Liena. How do you find people in need? Can they apply, or you cooperate with local governments and churches? And then we have a question from Lily, who is asking the other end, what kind of private donors are you working with? So maybe you can combine the answer.
Sure. So first of all, we don't work with people. For example, if somebody in need is contacting us, we can't just provide the food in this way. There are some structure that we need and some procedures that we are following. So for example, we are working only with the NGOs that are taking care of these people, because they have all the their profile and everything. For example, there's an association working with elderly people, and they know for sure if those people are really in need and what kind of things they're having. Sometimes maybe we receive some food for the babies, and we have no idea where are those baby in need. So we are not taking care of this. We are calling our NGOs that are taking care of people and find who works with childs, for example. So we are just we are in between, and we are working only with NGOs that are working with social parts. So the NGOs that are having a group of people that are in need, they can contact us and be part of the system. We just want to make sure that we have enough food to provide and to help them.
Excellent. And maybe the second question you could try to answer in the chat, because we're again starting to run a little bit short of time. I can already, James is already also getting worried. I can see it already. So thank you very much, Loredana. So if you could maybe indicate which kind of sponsors you're having or donors you're having in the chat, that would be actually really great.
So, I will answer in chat to the question, and I will put some links in order to be easier to follow and to see everything. Because one last thing that I want to say, what is really important this kind of action is transparency and traceability. Make sure that you're transparent and you can see all the numbers and everything in order to, make the system trust and also the people. And yeah, I think this is really important. Thank you, and I will answer in chat to the other questions.
Super nice. And if you can also put the link where people can watch some of these videos that you even have in English, that would also be great. Thank you so much, Loredana, for this super nice job that you're doing and for sharing it in this great presentation. So with that, we're going up to Finland. I think we're going up to Heme in Lahti is Jenni. And we're looking forward to hearing from you how you're dealing with food waste.
Yes, thank you. I will share my screen. And it was really nice to hear example from Romania, and I will continue with quite similar topic.
We see everything perfect. You can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And good day, everyone. Also on my behalf, I'm Jenni Rahkonen, Environmental Coordinator from the city of Lahti, Finland, and I work as a project manager in the Interreg Europe project called CITISYSTEM. City of Lahti is one of the 7 project partners in this circular bioeconomy focused project, and it aims towards a systemic change. And today I will tell about one of the good practices we have identified during this project from Lahti, and it focuses on utilization of food loss as food aid. Some words about the city of Lahti. So we have 120,000 inhabitants, and we are located 100 kilometers from Helsinki. Lahti is the first Finnish European Green Capital, and we won the award in year 2021. And we were also selected in the EU's 100 climate neutral and smart cities in 2022 and received the mission label in 2024. And we want to continue as the leading environmental city in Finland and also being a forerunner in Europe in environmental issues. And our environmental goals are strongly included in the Lahti city strategy. And Lahti aims to be carbon neutral as the first big city in Finland, also waste-free city by 2050 and nature positive by 2030. And one way of implementing the city strategy and the environmental goals is through the Lahti Circular Economy Roadmap. And this roadmap was published in 2022 and prepared with several stakeholders. This roadmap includes more than 80 actions towards circularity, and it describes as one main focus area the actions towards sustainable food system. And in more detail about the sustainable food system themes that we have in the roadmap, we have actions on several levels of the food system that lead towards the circular bioeconomy. There are actions related to sustainable food production, biogas utilization, and nutrient cycle. Today we are focusing on the theme of food loss reduction, and in the CITISYSTEM project, one of the focus areas is also the biowaste sorting and utilization. In 2021, more than 57,000 tons of food waste was generated in grocery stores in Finland. And in the same time, there are people in need of food aid. So it's really a waste if the surplus food is just thrown away from the markets, not used. And there have been some recent changes in Finnish legislation that has also affected the NGOs that are working among food aid. Earlier, the cities were responsible of the support for the NGOs. Now it's a different regional authority. And this has really affected the operations for the NGOs and how they get the funding for the operations. that are now at the moment mostly voluntary. And I will concentrate in this presentation more in the local level food aid model and concentrating especially on the Lahti area. Here is a picture that we got from a live illustrator in one of our dissemination events in our project, and it describes the operations on food loss utilization in Lahti. So NGOs have developed and organized a way to deliver the food aid to people in need. And one of these local actors is NGO called Operation Open Door. I will tell more in detail about their operations. But the need of funding is really emerging, and the funding covers only part of the operation costs, also for the Operation Open Door. And the NGO gets the grant from the Päijät-Häme Wellbeing Services County nowadays. So more in detail about the resources that are needed in this good practice. The Operation Open Door makes a contract with the donors, for example, with grocery stores to receive the donations of edible food waste. Then the NGO collects and stores the donations from these different companies in the NGO's cold storage and passes them then to the food distributors. And these distributors can then deliver about 2,250 food packages of food aid per week. And Operation Open Door runs with 350 volunteers, 3 delivery vans, a cold storage, 20 big donors, and 70 cooperating delivery organizations. Earlier they had 1 paid worker, but at the moment only volunteers, unfortunately. In total, over 90,000 kilograms of edible food per month is delivered to other organizations, such as churches, through Operation Open Door, and the churches and other NGOs then deliver the food forward to people in need. And this Operation Open Door NGO is a Christian-based and non-profit organization. So food waste alone generates up to 10% of global emissions, and by reducing the food waste, it protects the environment and climate. And in addition, the social employment is considered in this way of operations, also in this our good practice. The companies can at the same time reduce their food waste that they produce, lower their waste management cost, and also support the local vulnerable groups. And with this process, it's possible to repurpose edible food waste for consumption, whereas the surplus food might have otherwise been utilized only as an energy source or raw material for biogas production. And there is potential for learning and transfer. This good practice from Lahti demonstrates how edible food can be diverted from waste and instead distributed to people in need. And the results show impressive local numbers, 90 tons of edible food and about 70,000 food packages of food weight per month delivered. And this good practice can provide inspiration to other EU regions addressing this important issue. And the funding to develop the operations of the NGOs is vital and need to be improved in long term, definitely. The NGO can also employ people who have difficulty finding employment and help them to gain work experience. And the unemployment is one big issue in Lahti also, so there should be more cooperation between these services. And the example addresses not only the environmental concerns, but also social and economic aspects of circular economy. So thank you, and please find our website where you can also subscribe to our project newsletter.
Thank you very much, Jenni, for this example from Finland, which sounds also very nicely organized, supported by communication. You have this NGO working. So I was going to ask you how you're financing everything. So it's through a grant, I understand, from the Wellbeing Service. You also mentioned that it's very important that local authorities are being involved. So why do you think that is so important? Is it for the financial stability, for the communication? Why do you think they have this important role?
Yes, especially for the financial part, I think the NGOs have really good ways of communicating about this, and it has really long traditions for over many tens of years already. But the financial issue is important because also this service has to be developed further, and now there is no one who is actually thinking a few years in front. So the funding would be especially important for the development of the processes and the spaces, and even educating the workers in the NGO.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is very interesting what you're doing, this work there, and also the system that you have been building. It sounds a little bit similar to me, like what we have seen in Romania. You said that as well. So excellent. Also the results that you're achieving with 90 tons of food waste prevention, let's say, and bringing it to people that are really in need. So thank you very much, Jenni, for your presentation. I would like to ask all our speakers to maybe put back their cameras. We just want to have a last round of a question to see for your input. It would be interesting, I think, to see what would be one of your key recommendations for the many municipalities and cities that are participating in this webinar. What would you recommend to them? Where would they start? What is the way to go forward to implement similar activities as you are doing? I might ask Kristof first, because you're doing this already since 1998. So maybe you could start.
Well, I think the most important thing to reach your goals is that was the item of my PowerPoint. It was the non-stop communication. At one point in the beginning of 2000, we thought, when we have our master composters, and those voluntary master composters are telling the message to the people, it's enough, but that is not enough. You have to focus on several types of communication methods to reach the people, and you have to do it. You have to continue it. You have to do it all the time. Never stop with communicating on food waste prevention. It's never a finished job.
Thank you very much, Kristof. Sounds also a bit scary. Okay, but thank you for pointing this out again. So maybe we can go to Loredana.
Yeah, so there are many things that I would love to say, and also I agree with what Kristof said. But I encourage one thing, because all the good practices, yeah, they can be implemented. And for example, to develop a food bank, it's not that complicated. But what I encourage is to try to see more best practices that can fit in your region. For example, the Interreg Europe platform and everything that is going on, it's incredible. For us, it really helps in order to connect with some experts, because they are just one email away. So if you really want to do something regarding food waste or other things, just connect with others, look for good practices, and try to see if you can implement that in your region.
Thank you, Loredana. It's very, very kind of you to point this out. Also, as James presented at the beginning, we have several services. So if you want to start similar activities in your region, and this is a policy challenge for you, you can always come to us, and we can bring experts to your region that can help you to kickstart the process on food waste prevention and other waste prevention, for example. So don't be shy and get in contact with us if you have this specific question. And Jenni, what would be your key recommendations for the Kickstarters?
Yeah, thank you. Very good answers from Kristof and Loredana. Maybe I could, because I'm representing the city, and in our project we are really closely working also with schools, and also related to the presentation from Kristof. I think it starts from the children and how you are educating about the food waste prevention and how you are sorting your waste correctly. It starts from the schools, and children that can take it to their homes and educate maybe their parents. And I think that is very, very strong way to have a bigger effect.
Thank you very much. A lot in that sector, I think, starts with children. They're teaching bottom up everybody who follows. So thank you very much for sharing this insight. And I'd like to maybe finish with Ernest, because you have the European overview. What do you think could be a key recommendation?
Well, when it comes to kickstarting a project or an initiative, and also to maximize the impact for the efforts and the finance and everything that is invested, I think understanding the context and the circumstance that a certain city or region is in. Is it a rural region? Is it a urban city? Is there any food production around? How can we improve the overall food system from farm to fork? There are many different campaigns, policies, frameworks, but to understand where does the food waste happen in the first place. And this is how we could maximize the impact of an intervention, to understand where is the biggest amount of food waste, why is it happening, what is, again, back to the behavior, what is the behavior that creates this food waste, and to target that. Education is something that is horizontal, should be a part of everyday curriculum from kindergarten onwards, but specific intervention, investments, and policy instruments should really first should be a result and an outcome of an observation, of a research, of an assessment, of something that would help maximizing the impact. Because of course, a city will not have the same type of food waste as a rural region in, I don't know, somewhere.
Thank you very much, everyone, for these recommendations. I think we're coming to the end of our webinar. If I understood it well, we need a lot of education and training, starting from the children up to everyone else. We need a lot of communication on a continuous basis. It's really good to trace your activities, to do surveys, to understand what is working, what is not working, and to be flexible in your communication and in your activities. Increasing the public awareness. We have also been told that it's good to be transparent, show the impact that you're having, and be really open so that everybody can see what you're doing. And we've also been talking about understanding very well the needs and the local context in which actually this food production should take place, whether you're in urban or rural context, and so on and so forth. That was excellent. So I would like to thank all our speakers for their really beautiful contributions, for also answering all the questions in the chat. Thank you also to our audience, which has also been asking a lot of questions, and which we would ask to complete a survey, which is going to pop up once this webinar is over. So to tell us what else we could talk about in the future, and what else we could do differently or better in the future with our webinars from the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. So a big thank you to everyone, and also to the colleagues for the great organization. So thank you, James. Thank you, Valentin. And with that, we would like to wish you a nice day, and hope to see you soon on one of our events of the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. Bye-bye, and have a good day.
Goodbye.